Here are 7 common mistakes that people make when they're choosing their very first job. And make sure you stay until the end of the video because I've got a super important bonus tip that will ultimately change your overall career happiness and trajectory in the long run, and you don't want to miss it. And if you want more career tips just like this, I post weekly videos up on the CareerShakers YouTube channel, so make sure you click subscribe down below or share it with a friend. So I wanted to make this video because as a recruiter and career coach, I get messages all the time on my LinkedIn from college students asking me for advice about choosing their first job and which companies they should go and work for. So I wanted to answer some of the common questions and point out some common mistakes that I see a lot of people make, and these are even mistakes that I myself have made, and hopefully you don't make the same ones. Now, the first huge mistake that I see people make when choosing their first job is focusing too much on the money. Now, don't get me wrong, making a lot of money is never a bad thing, but I also think that it's a huge mistake to choose your future major or career purely based on how much money you can make right when you graduate. I myself am a living example that I can tell you that it really only feels good for the first few years, and then when you realize you genuinely don't like your job, you're either going to burn out or you're going to choose a life that really doesn't bring you much fulfillment. And I promise you, in the long run, if you were to choose a job that you genuinely love, even if it doesn't pay as much as, say, software engineering or investment banking, in the long run, you will be making more money because when you truly love what you do, you'll be willing to work more, work extra, invest the time in yourself, get better at your job, and you will have huge career trajectory compared to people who are just doing it to get a paycheck. Now, the second common mistake that I see people make is letting external factors, your environment, or other people truly determine what career you are going to pursue as your first job. Now, a lot of these external pressures can come from family members and or even your peers and friends based on how society views certain jobs, like doctors, lawyers, investment bankers, management consultants, software engineers, etc. Not to say that all of the advice you get from external factors and your environment is bad, but I do think you should take a critical lens as to what is something that you actually want to do that would make you happy versus what is it that your parents or friends want you to do that would make them happy. Another mistake is people not getting a truly realistic view of what it's like to do a job before you sign an offer letter. Sure, doing an internship or externship is great, but keep in mind, these internship programs are designed so that you will accept a job offer and come back to work for them when you graduate. So they're not going to truly always give you the best and truly honest view of what it's like to do a job. They're usually going to give you cool things to do, or they're going to have fun happy hours. They're going to make sure you have a buddy who's really bubbly and has an awesome personality. They're going to hand select your manager to make sure that you get a really good one so that you have a fantastic experience. And they're sometimes going to give you projects that are always really, really cool and really exciting, but isn't always something you'll be doing as a realistic part of your job. So when you are choosing your future career, make sure you get a truly realistic view. Talk to somebody who can show you what it's really like on a day-to-day basis. How much time do they spend in meetings? How much time is spent working on emails? How much time is spent staring at a spreadsheet, doing Excel formulas? You need to make sure you get a realistic view of what are all the bad and good things about a specific career so you can make the best decision for yourself. Now, this next tip is probably going to stir up a lot of controversy, but I also think a really big mistake that people make, and something that even I made when choosing my first job, is caring too much about work-life balance. This was one of the most popular questions when I was interviewing for these big four consulting firms was, what is work-life balance like? And to be totally honest, when you graduate college and you're in your early 20s, assuming you don't have a family or children to take care of, I really don't think that you should be choosing a job based on work-life balance. In fact, you should be choosing a job that will give you the most amount of work experience and exposure to different skill sets as possible. So while you have the energy and the time and without as many financial commitments like children or a mortgage, I truly think you should be working the most amount of time when you are first graduating and taking your first job. Don't worry too much about the work-life balance because the whole goal is for you to learn as quickly as possible so you become really marketable in the marketplace. And if you wanted to leave your company, if you have the most amount of work experience compared to your peers, you will really shine in these interviews. And speaking of passing these interviews, if you want to get more internship and first job offers, make sure you watch this video that I have right here about interviewing tips for internship programs. Now, the fifth common mistake that I see people make is not thinking about the location of the job and where you will have to live and or commute and travel to when you accept it. Sometimes companies offer you fantastic compensation packages, but in very rural or distant parts of the country. And that's because that's really sometimes the only way that they can convince people to accept those jobs. So you should be thinking about, what is your life going to be like when you're not working and you leave the office? Because you need to think about your holistic health, not just what you're doing from 9 to 5 every day, but also what it's going to be like to impact your overall mental health and well-being. Another mistake is not genuinely testing and assessing who your future manager is going to be at that company when you accept this job. In my honest opinion, your manager is what matters the most when you accept any job, whether it's your first job or your fifth job. So really make sure that you and the manager have a really good chemistry and that the manager genuinely invests in your career for the future in the long run. It's far better to work for a slightly lesser known company if you have a fantastic manager who will truly care about you and invest in your development for the future, because that is going to pay huge dividends and you're actually going to enjoy going to work. And the last super common mistake that I see people make is choosing or focusing too much on brand name companies. Now, don't get me wrong, working for a top tier company or a Fortune 100 company is always going to look really good on your resume. But if they offer you a job that you're not actually excited about or isn't really the job that you wanted to get, don't accept it just because it's a top tier company with a really good brand name. Instead, you should take a job that gives you the responsibilities and skill sets that will make you marketable in the future for the job that you really want to do. Sometimes a lot of people are faced with making a decision between multiple different companies and job offers, but if a company has a brand name but doesn't offer you the exact job that you want, it is oftentimes better to work for a lesser known company if it means you get that future job, that title, and exposure to the skill set that you really want. Thank you all for watching all the way to the very end. So here is a bonus tip that I wanted to share that I think is going to influence your overall career happiness in life. And this bonus tip is that you should be taking a step back at the end of your first year of working. So after you've chosen a job, take a step back and make sure you're really evaluating if this job makes you happy. Keep in mind that anytime you're learning something new, it's going to be fun and exciting just because it's new, right? So give yourself about a year in the job and then take a step back. Take a really hard look and understand what the job is offering you, what skills you're developing, and if you're truly happy doing that kind of work. Your goal by the time you reach your third year of working is to figure out what your dream job will be in the future. Sometimes it's a job that you already have and that's fantastic, but most of the time it is not the exact job that you signed on for when you first graduated or chose your first career path. And it's okay to change careers, and it's much easier to do it earlier on in your career than later. So make sure you're taking a retrospective look and be honest with yourself to see if you truly are happy with the work. Alright, so now you know 7 common mistakes that people make when choosing their first job or their first career. I made quite a few of these mistakes, and I'm hoping this video will save all of you some of that hassle and heartache as well. Thank you all for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.